begin with new information on a deadly assault that happened on an inmate at the Monterey County Jail. According to the Monterey County Sheriff's Office, deputies found an unconscious person who appeared to have been assaulted Sunday morning around 10 a.m.
Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a torta with some snack habits. Bye up, bye up. Let's get straight to the intro. Welcome back to the channel, and if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that I stay kicking, and I appreciate the support. So wow, 4 lives lost, basically, right? A removal for not a damn thing. Was this a wrong call? Was this Norteño removal in Monterey County Jail the right call? Well, you know, as you can see, things happen. There was a removal over the weekend in the Monterey County Jail where one Norteño, an alleged active Norteño, lost his life by the hands of his own people. 3 youngsters, ranges from ages 19 to 20 to 21, are now facing murder charges based upon a removal that was done in the Monterey County Jail. Now, I'll tell you this, Monterey County Jail for Norteños is very active. It is a stronghold. It is a place that applies pressure. It is a place that if you are functioning as a Norteño, you better be up to par, on point at all times. And if you have any smut on your jacket, anything on your name, you will be held accountable. Your dirt will be found out. I remember I used to tell people in the Merced County Jail, which is another Norteño stronghold on the block, I used to lace little homies up and say, hey, bro, if you have any type of, if you're skeptical about anything that you've done or there's any bad shit in your past, you better get the fuck on now, homie, before the homies find out, because once they find out, you're not walking out of here. You're going to be carried out of here. Whether it's in a body bag or just with broken bones, either way, something bad's going to happen to you. You know, I used to try to help people to help themselves. But at the end of the day, I also was one of those individuals that applied pressure and was not willing to let you escape untouched. You know, a Norteño philosophy has always been, we can't let them get away. They don't want to let people PC up. They don't want to let people drop out. They don't want to let motherfuckers get away, because then you feel like you didn't hold it down or defend the household the way you should have. So in the county jail, as far as the Norteño movement goes, Southsiders as well, removals happen all the time. Now, this particular removal was done by individuals in the Monterey County Jail to an individual that's from Hayward. Now, I don't know how it goes in the Monterey County Jail, how individualism and homeboy favoritism goes, but I know in my county jail, there was a whole lot of that. Being that my neighborhood was pretty much the biggest neighborhood in Merced at that time, we showed a lot of homeboy favoritism. Even to the point where we knew homeboys had not smut on their name, because that would never rock nor roll, right? But we knew homeboys were not the strongest individual, and maybe doing jail time they weren't prepared for, because it's a whole different beast, a whole different animal. But we'd show them love. And then it'd be another homeboy from a different city that would just happen to get caught up in Merced County, and they got put through the ringer. They got hazed a little bit. It's just the way it was. And I'm not sure if that's still how the way it is. But according to what I'm seeing right here with this situation, it seems like the homie from Hayward was asked out. Now, let me give you a little bit of background about this dude from Hayward. And I'm going to read you guys the article, and we're going to get into that, because I want to make sure that you guys get a correct understanding of exactly what happened on that day. And I also want you guys to get a background history to what I've learned about this particular individual that was unalived. So the article says 3 inmates accused in deadly jail assault, including Salinas double homicide suspects. So you already had one of these youngsters who did this removal. He had nothing to lose, right? He was already facing murder charges for unaliving another individual. It just gets crazy. You know, when you feel you're hopeless and you're already done, you might as well get yours, right? Get off where you're mad at. So, Salinas, California, an inmate in Monterey County Jail awaiting trial for murder charges is now facing new murder charges after deputies say he and 2 other inmates killed another inmate during a deadly assault. One of the suspected killers was already in custody for allegedly shooting 3 people in Salinas, leaving 2 of them dead. So double murder already. A 30-year-old Hayward man identified as Abraham Camacho And I'm going to get to the reason why this happened, the whole background. We're going to get to it. He was found unresponsive inside of his jail cell Sunday morning during a safety check. Once they located him, they were able to pull him out and immediately started life-saving efforts, said Monterey County Sheriff's Office spokesperson Andres Rosas. This individual tragically succumbed to their injuries and was pronounced deceased there at the Monterey County Jail. The cause and nature of the death are to be determined by the Santa Cruz County coroner, which is conducting the autopsy on behalf of the Monterey County Sheriff's deputies. Say 3 fellow inmates are to blame for the deadly assault. Romero Gonzalez, age 21. Key in on the ages, very young, just threw their lives away. Elijah Herrera, age 20, and of course, Marwe Camacho, 19. Camacho was in custody awaiting trial for allegedly shooting 3 people in Salinas last year, killing 2 of them. All 3 of these individuals have been charged with or have been booked for murder, as well as gang enhancements and conspiracy charges. The key thing in this jailhouse murder will be surveillance video inside the jail to see if it captured the murder. Deputies say if it may or may not be seen. The investigation has a lot of parts to it. Okay, let's get into this. So, Abraham Camacho was unalived. And, most county jails now, prison yards, there's cameras. So I'm sure that these cameras picked up footage of maybe not the actual assault occurring, but maybe these 3 individuals running into the cell. They're going to put 2 and 2 together, equal 4, 1 force Norte gang, right? And figure out who was involved. Now, having bees that they've already got these guys, they've already charged them that fast just since Sunday. We're at Wednesday right now. That means someone had to have said something. The word circulated pretty quick. They got straight to the cameras, I'm sure, straight to investigating and interviewing people. And someone obviously said something enough so that they could actually snatch these individuals up and charge them with murder immediately. Now, why did they do this to the guy? Removals happen all the time. Could happen for a number of reasons. This is why getting involved in the gang life is so serious. It's a life or death situation. You could be in good standings, busting a spread with the homie one day and be able not to stand the next day. Okay, it's just that quick. But usually within the Norteño movement, you get proper due process and an investigation into what causes this. So this guy, Abraham Camacho from Hayward, did have charges in the past of a sexual nature, okay, against a young woman who, according to everything that I've heard from people, put false charges on this guy, okay? Now, that's what makes things so deadly. Any woman can go around and say you did anything to her and you will be charged. Now, in most cases, you're going to get the due process. People are going to read the paperwork. They're going to make sure that this woman is just not disgruntled. She's not, just saying these things. A lot of it happens too in situations where you have like custody battles. Women don't want to give up their children, so they'll try to put a jacket saying that the man hurt the kid or hurt them or did something of an SA nature. It happens frequently. It's pretty consistent in life, right? A man and a woman get involved. The woman's not happy. The man doesn't want to be with her. She might say he did something he didn't do. Now, being that you're a gang member, you can never be charged with a situation like this. And if you are, you better have the proper paperwork. You better have the proper witnesses saying that that's fake, that's false. You better be able to prove it. Now, obviously, this guy was in the county jail. And from what I hear, he had been cleared. He had went through the Norteño clearing process, meaning that those charges that he was charged with, it came up that they were fake. They were false. And from what I'm hearing from people that actually knew this guy, they were false charges. There was a young woman that he was involved with to some degree, and she tried to put some charges on him. And for a while, they were on him, and then he was able to clear his name. Okay, I've been around people that have been able to do that. I remember one individual, he had some bad charges, and they kept him up front. They kept him isolated and segregated away from the Norteño population because I'm going to be totally honest with you, man. I know you got to give people the due process to the point where if it's actually proved factual, then you get off. But there's a lot of situations depending upon who's there, man, that if they just see that you got bad charges, they're not even going to blink twice. They're not going to think twice neither. They're going to be safe than sorry. They're just going to get off and remove you, right? This guy, having been through the Norteño clearing process, which isn't very simple, right? Especially in a county jail as deadly and as treacherous and as laced up and educated as Monterey County Jail when it comes to the Norteño plight, you would think that they already knew what was up. But as you can see by the guys who did the removal, this is a different type of generation. You have a lot of young knuckleheads, youngsters that are trying to prove a point and prove themselves and are willing to go all the way to the point of unaliving a person, to the point of death, right? Based upon that's just what it is nowadays, man. The more bodies you catch, the more respect you get. Now, it's always been that way. There's always going to be soldados willing to fucking, go all out and make the ultimate sacrifice for the cause. That's just the way the game is. But when a person is cleared of bad charges, you don't still remove him. You don't still get off. It had to have been a point where either they seen something that made them say, you know what, now this is bullshit. He really is guilty of this. Or they just went based upon the charges, and said, you know what, fuck it. We're going to make an example. We're going to lay a demo down. It is what it is. Now, I'm going to be totally real with you. I've seen removals happen and participated in removals for some of the most minute things, some of the most bullshit things. People not making their beds right, people being unclean, no good hygiene, dudes sleeping with other dudes, old ladies, a personal agenda, drug debts, being a thorn in the side of the cause, disrespecting another homeboy, putting hands on another homeboy. It could be any type of situation you can get removed for, especially within the Norteño cause, because you're only as strong as your weakest link, and Machina needs to be on full go at all times, right? The Monterey County Jail is not to be fucked with. It's not a place where you go in and you have any type of suspicious activity on your case, because if you do, depending upon who's calling cuetes, who's there making the moves, they might not want to deal with that. I've seen situations where people think they're getting due process, but they were fucked right from the gate. The only thing that the homeboys are doing is preparing on who's going to remove this guy, how long it's going to take, when it's going to happen, and who's going to do it. And it's a fucked up situation, especially someone like this guy, Abraham Camacho, who went into the county jail, I'm sure, with these charges and understood, man, this is a bad situation. This woman has pretty much wrecked my career or tarnished and tainted my career. And so now, no matter where he goes, that's always going to be over his head, even if he got cleared. I had a homeboy that had some SA charges, right, from my neighborhood. And we knew in the neighborhood that he didn't do that. We knew the whole story. We knew that he was a drug dealer at the time, and he was actually serving. It was his girlfriend. She was 16, 17. He had just turned 18 at the time. And so they had been together for years, and he was serving her dad, A1, right? Yay. And her dad was a cluck. He was a basehead, and he wanted to keep getting served on the low, right? He wanted that cheap, that fucking father-in-law discount. And when the homeboy said, hey, man, I can't do it anymore, man, I can't do that, they put fucking some statutory charges on the homie, right? So instead of fighting them, he was a youngster at the time, 18 years old. He didn't know no better. This was a long time ago, pre-fucking the way Norteños move now, right? This is when it was kind of like there was no structure. And I'm not making excuses for him just because he's from my neighborhood. This is just all facts, right? Because I distanced myself from him too at a certain time, just because it was better for my safety and security. But anyways, he ends up taking a deal, some probation, so he can get out of jail, not really realizing they were going to come out with a Megan's Law and he was going to have to be on it. And so when that happened, there was a lot of younger homeboys that had came in after that, didn't really know the story or didn't care. And he was not allowed to participate in the general population yards. And a lot of the older homeboys like myself, we used to tell him, hey, you'll get cleared, homie. We'll clear you if you come to the block. And he didn't want to come to the block for a long time. It just was what it was. And it was like, hey, if he doesn't want to stand up for himself and clear that case, then he's guilty, right? He's guilty by guilt by association. And that's just how that went. And so ultimately, man, he went to the other side. And then just recently, a few years ago, he was brought back, right? He was brought back up. His name circulated. He got cleared and actually brought back in, or whatever the case may be. That's his business. Anyways, so I've seen people get removed on certain situations like that, and I've seen people not. I remember there was a guy also that came to the county jail. He had a domestic violence issue. There was kids present, and they got him for child endangerment, and he got endangered very bad. And the cool part about it was there was no children. Later on, it came to find out there was no children in the home. That's just what the girl said. But it was already too late. He was already removed, literally, terminally, right? And so that's how that goes. So this situation with this guy is a fucked up situation. Here he has a bad case on his jacket that everyone around him and people that I've talked to say that he was actually innocent of, and he still got removed. Now, a lot of people are thinking this is the reasoning, but it could be totally something different. He could have went in there and violated any number of rules. You know, like I said, Monterey County Jail is a stronghold for Nortenos, and you have to be really up to par. You know, I remember doing times my whole life with dudes from Salinas, dudes from Watsonville. I've done time with dudes from Gilas, Gilroy, King City, dudes from Gonzales, just that whole Salad Bowl area. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, man, they move differently. Their movements, they act like they're fucking big homies, right? Like that's just how it is. That's the way they're laced up. They're just all in to the fullest, but willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. And in this case, 3 youngsters did. This is a fucking eye-opening experience to you kids that are out there gangbanging that want to be involved. You know, you're going to be utilized. You notice these were all youngsters. You're going to be utilized to do the pegada. You're going to be utilized to handle the business. Lives are thrown away. Now you got one guy who's unalived. He's gone. His family will mourn him. His friends will mourn him. And it's especially fucked up if he got removed on a situation he could not control that he was actually innocent of. Now, again, this is just he said, she said. He could quite possibly have done that to that girl. And of course, his family and his friends don't want to accept it. You know, it hurts to think that your homeboy or your brother or your sister or your family member can be capable or is able of doing some bad shit, but it happens. You know what happens? I watched 2 brothers get off where they were mad at on each other because one brother, man, kidnapped a chick and did some wild shit, and the other brother wasn't having it. And he knew he can get closest to his brother, so he went ahead and made that next move his best move. So things happen. It's hard to accept. It's a hard pill to swallow, but that's life, right? But also a hard pill to swallow is when you kill someone, when you unalive someone, when you remove someone for false charges, for said charges, and it comes out that they're actually innocent. They were a solid, good homeboy. You know, is that basically red on red? Kind of. But, you know, when you're told to do something or you're asked to defend the household, you don't question it. You don't question it. You know, I was in a situation where I questioned situations, right? I knew the whole get down, though. I knew I was being put in a position to do a removal based upon I had struck the AIC, the authority in charge, up because of drug usage. So I figured they were trying to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, right? And that's the only reason I questioned the removal. But in most cases, I understand that you don't have that voice. Even though you have equality, social status of equality within the movement, when you're told, hey, homie, this homeboy needs to be removed, you do have the right to ask why, but you don't. You know, if you start questioning the authority, the chain of command, you're going to be the next one getting whacked. That's just how it is. So this situation is an eye-opening experience for all the youngsters that are thinking about gangbanging, thinking it's cool to go on fucking Instagram and all these different fucking content creating platforms and show people guns and talk shit and kick over memorials and disrespect people's neighborhoods. You know, I heard a story in San Jose the other day. The upstate Southsiders actually went into a Norteno neighborhood and stole the sign on their park for flex, right? It's crazy nowadays. This is the type of shit that's happening. Back in our days, you might get a little spray paint in your barrio. That's about it. Nowadays, they'll go around and fucking steal your slide at your park. Fair. They're just a trip, right? Anyways, this is not a laughing matter. You got 4 youngsters, man, that are gone now. One that was already facing double life. Now he picked up another body. His path of destruction, is over. The other 2, man, they're going to go right along with them. You know, what's going to happen? I'm going to tell you what happens in most of these situations. Someone's going to fold. Someone's going to break. Someone's going to tell the whole story. And so this whole murder and everything that you believed in and that you did this for is going to be for naught, because you're going to be on the other side wishing that you had never participated in the shenanigans, but it's too late. See, that's the thing in the gang lifestyle. It's too late. So if you have an opportunity, and I'm not trying to poison the soldados or the manpower and all that. I understand there's Norteños and Southsiders that get mad. You guys, you content creators, you drop out channels, you guys are trying to poison the gente. I'm not trying to poison no one, but I'm saying, man, look, if it comes out that this dude didn't do nothing wrong, that he got removed on an old case that wasn't even real or true, who's really doing the poisoning? Think about it. With that being said, thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I honestly and truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. Again, man, I don't know the reason why this guy was unalived. I'm just saying the story that's floating around out there is that he did have some bad charges on him, but that he was cleared in the household, meaning that those charges were false. And he still got removed anyways. I don't know, man. I guess we'll let speculation speculate. This video is sponsored by Barrio Liquors out there in Turlock, California. If you're ever in the area, pull up to Turlock and get you something icy and cold to drink at Barrio Liquors. Also by Sticks and Stones Yard Service out there in Tucson, Arizona. Google Sticks and Stones Yard Service if you're in the area and you need some yard work, and help support small local raza businesses, and the homeboy will take care of you. You guys already know, man. This is an unfortunate situation all the way around, and families will suffer. This is the gun. Bang, bang.